Hello everyone, welcome back to Speaking Spurs and me, Kieran, talking all things Tottenham. And today we're going to talk about the only thing we can, and that is Spurs' managerial search that is going on and on and on. So the man we're going to talk about is Ange Postecoglou, as promised. He is the front runner for the job that we're hearing publicly. Sky Sports, Fabrizio Romano, Football London. Pretty much that's all anyone's talking about at the moment. Don't get me wrong, there's other people we're still looking at. It's probably a list as long as my arm, if not longer, but he seems to be the preferred option. There's many reasons for that. He ticks quite a lot of boxes. So yeah, that's what we're talking about. So if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. It helps it grow, reaches it out to more Spurs fans. Don't forget to support the video with a like if you enjoyed it, and as always, post your comments below to keep the conversation going. Right, so there's a bit of mixed opinion from Spurs fans. Some of them are open-minded to the 57-year-old coming in, while some have reservations about appointing a manager who has extremely limited experience of working in Europe since starting his managerial career in the mid-90s. Tottenham have obviously been opting for glamorous names such as Conte, Mourinho. They didn't work. Nuno Espirito Santo was the risky option that many are comparing this to, and that clearly wasn't the right way. Lots of people have been linked with the job in terms of Pochettino, but was never spoken to by the Tottenham hierarchy and has obviously accepted the Chelsea job. Nagelsmann, who apparently we distanced ourselves from, and Arne Slot, who has obviously decided to stay as manager of Feyenoord. And there's been a lot of talk about bad feeling amongst the Spurs hierarchy that he was only ever using us as a way to get an improved deal at Feyenoord. But yeah, Postecoglou. Let's talk about the positives. Everyone that you talk to, be it fans, players, they all seem to like him, right? All the players are coming out talking about how good a man manager he is. For those of you that watch the Fozcast with Ben Foster, he had Joe Hart on recently, and he was talking about the fact that Nuno was the man that came in at Spurs after Mourinho had given him a chance, and Nuno basically said, "Look, you're not good enough. You won't play in a Spurs shirt again, at least under me." Binned him off. He ended up at Celtic after talks with Postecoglou, and was talking about how for him it needed to be the right move and just needed to hear his thoughts on it. And he said, look, he said all the right things, brought me into the club. He's obviously been the first team goalkeeper, proved that he still has a lot to offer, and has put in some massive performances for Celtic. He's their number one, and he was talking about how good a guy Ange Postecoglou is. So for me, that's one of the most important things you can have as a manager, being a great man manager. Now, when we look at Mourinho, yes, he did get the best out of some of the players, but others, Dele Alli, for example, he criticised him not just in the office between the two of them. It was obviously being filmed. So that then went out publicly to millions and millions of people worldwide. Obviously did no good for him. You also had the incident with Danny Rose, which pretty much signalled the end of his career at Tottenham Hotspur. So, man management with some players might have been good, but with them too, certainly not. Antonio Conte, clearly not the best man manager. Many people in the squad felt a bit isolated. Ultimately, the players in the end were the ones that pushed and called for his head, and the hierarchy listened. So if you want to talk about man managers, we go back to Martin Jol, who, may I remind you, was not first choice for the job. He was coming in as the assistant and basically just to translate, and ended up having to take the job. Harry Redknapp was only brought in to bring us out of trouble. Great man manager, players loved him, fans loved him. And then Maurizio Pochettino, when he came in, he certainly was not our first choice either. And look at the success he had, but great man manager. And when you look at it, experience, Martin Jol, what fantastic experience did he have in top flight? Wasn't amazing. Harry Redknapp has basically been the man, the wheeler dealer that gets clubs out of trouble or gets clubs promoted back to the Premier League. And the Maurizio Pochettino, very limited experience, he did a decent job at bringing youngsters through into the first team in Southampton. Now that was the glamour there, not for Tottenham, bringing a manager that plays decent attacking football that also uses youngsters to save the club money. He ticked a lot of boxes there. But all of those were great man managers, were great with the fans, put the club in a good mood, And this could be that appointment. So I think the fans are being, some of them, are being a bit overcritical. And second all for me, he plays great football. It's attacking. Yes, they concede a lot of goals under him, but we've got the attacking talent to score more goals than we concede. So, you know, I think there's the comparisons with Nuno are lazy and unfair. Very different styles of football. Nuno was a very, it was just boring. It was dross. So I think, from that sense, he definitely ticks a box in attacking football. Um, he speaks well. He's been around the game for a while, and I don't care that he hasn't been at big clubs. The main thing for me is that he has improved as a manager and his clubs succeed. So he turns 58 at the end of August, and he was actually talking recently. And the one thing he says is, my philosophy on the pitch is that we never stop. We aim to be relentless in our spirit and in our commitment. This was actually ahead of the trip to Ibrox in March 2022. He said, playing attacking, entertaining football won't always be easy, but it will always be worth it. And for me, it will always be worth giving you a team you can be proud of. As I say to the players, for 90 minutes, it's our responsibility to make you feel good and give you moments to remember. It will always be our way. He added, of course, winning is a huge part of the club's identity, but for me, it's not just about winning, it's about how we win and about the kind of team we aspire to be. It's about having a strong faith in our ability and a belief in our own style of football. We have a way of playing the game which is challenging but offers great rewards. And while we have a huge responsibility to deliver results, we want to be a team that excites you, puts a smile on your face, and gets you out of your seat. I want my players to enjoy it, and I want our fans to enjoy it together. And by uniting behind this shared vision of what we want to be, we can deliver the success we aim for. Now, do you know how refreshing it is to hear that? A manager that openly says, look, it ain't always going to be pretty, but we're going to work hard. We are going to entertain. Spurs used to be entertaining. And do you know what makes me laugh? This season, leading into the last few games of the season, we still could have finished in fourth spot. We've ended up finishing eighth because, look, there a lot of teams below have really stepped their game up this season. Newcastle came back into the fold. Brighton, Aston Villa, Liverpool with a late resurgence. Manchester United improved this season. Arsenal decided to, start playing football for the first time in a while. So it's been tighter than ever. But we're saying as fans, it's one of the worst seasons we've seen. Now, me growing up as a Spurs fan, before Martin Jol, I just remember the days of Spurs finishing anywhere from 10th to 14th. But we didn't moan as much because we actually played quite entertaining football. Now, under Pochettino, we played quite attractive football, but under Mourinho, under Conte, look, Conte got us Champions League football last year, but throughout most of the season, we were moaning about the style of football that we were playing because it was boring. Now, I would much rather win like 5-3, 4-2, or close games where it's like, I don't know, 3-2. Goals in the game, entertaining. I would much rather that than win 1-0 playing conservatively every week and just hitting a team on the break. Wouldn't you? This is what this guy's going to offer us. We're going to concede loads of goals, but we will also score loads of goals. And with the talent we've got, we should be fine. So there's not really much to talk about in terms of his playing career. He was born in Greece and at the age of 5 moved to Australia with his family to Melbourne, Victoria. Joined South Melbourne as a 9-year-old. Rose through the ranks there. Played 193 games. Won 2 titles there. Represented Australia only 4 times between 1986 and 1988, the year that I was born. And he represented them at youth level as well. Made 13 appearances for the under-20s in 1985. But his career was ended early for a knee injury, and then went into coaching. So started at South Melbourne, the place that he was playing, and then took over the head coaching role in 1996. He then took them to consecutive titles in the 97-98 and then 98-99 seasons, winning the 99 Oceania Club Championship, which in turn led to their participation in the 2000 FIFA Club World Championships. He then stood down in the 99-2000 season, and was appointed as a coach in the Australian youth system. His role there was to develop and identify Australian players for international. He was then involved in an on-air argument with Craig Foster on the World Game. And then he was replaced as coach in February 2007 after they failed to qualify for the Under-20 World Cup. So after that departure, he actually took some time out of coaching and worked as a football pundit for Fox Sports and as an elite consultant for the Football Federation Victoria. So after the incident with Craig Foster, he actually felt it was going to make him difficult to be employed. But then he got back into coaching with, and I'm going to murder the name here, Panachaiki in the Greek third division, and then to the Whittlesea Zebras back in Melbourne. And he also ran coaching clinics in the city. After that, he went to Brisbane Roar, and this is where his career really took off in terms of management. So for them, he started rebuilding the team, and this was by getting rid of loads of players, release loads. Fans weren't happy about it. He then asked them, just, you give it a year and then come back and talk to me. And he proved them wrong. He won games. He had an entertaining brand of football, which has followed him throughout his coaching career. Some big wins, kept them happy. He signed a 2-year extension with them when he could have gone to be the Greek national team manager, and he won back-to-back A-League championships there. So he became the most successful Australian domestic football coach with 4 national titles. He then announced his resignation from those after the 2.5 years, as I said, with the back-to-back A-League championships, a premiership and consecutive qualification for the AFC Champions League. He went to Melbourne Victory. Wasn't quite as successful there as he was with Brisbane Roar, but the team were in a different position anyway. Again, ripped out loads of players from there, releasing 8 first team players, 2 players that they had on loan they didn't decide to take up permanent deals for, brought in loads of other players. One of the players that he released was actually Harry Kewell, former Premier League cult hero. But then he was made Australian national team manager. Bit of mixed success there when he came in. He got a 5-year contract there. That was in 2013. He came in towards the back end of the golden generation where they started getting a bit too old, stagnated performances. They had and before he came in, they'd lost consecutive games of 6-0 defeats to Brazil and France. So he came in, his first game as a friendly, won 1-0, and that was against Costa Rica, courtesy of a goal from Tim Cahill, who obviously we all know from the Premier League. But then his first competition, which was the 2014 World Cup, he was drawn in a group with holders Spain, runners-up Netherlands from the 2010, and then Chile, who can be good on their day. So he actually lost 3-1, 3-2, was eliminated, and then the final game lost 3-0. But the fans felt that a new golden generation was about to begin. He then coached them in the 2015 AFC Asian Cup. So this is teams more on their own level, and this is really where you see him come into his own. So they beat Kuwait 4-0, beat Oman... beat Kuwait 4-1, Oman 4-0, lost to South Korea 1-0. So they advanced from the group stage, then beat China 2-0. The UAE they beat 2-0 in the semi-final. Then they went on to beat South Korea, who they lost against in the group stage. They beat them 2-1 after extra time to win in the final for their first AFC Asian Cup. 2 weeks after, Australia qualified for the 2018 World Cup, and then Postecoglou announced his retirement in 2017 from the Socceroos for a strange move to Yokohama F. Marinos. Now, this was a bit of a challenge for him. They weren't the most successful team going. In fact, in the first season, they narrowly avoided relegation, but he did guide them to the final of the J-League Cup and a 12th place finish. They scored the second highest number of goals in the league, despite finishing 12th, but they did concede the third most amount of goals. So this is the theme of where, he sets the team up very attacking, but they will concede a lot of goals as well. But Um, he extended his contract with them, and he rewarded them in the following season because he guided them to their first J League title in 15 years. Um, which is pretty incredible that he took a bang average club at the time and managed to win a title that quickly. So that shows you the influence that he's having and the improvements that he makes. Then he moves to Celtic on a strange contract of 12 months rolling. Great for us because if we do sign him, there's no compensation to be paid. It was met with content, him going to Rangers. Ooh. A lot of Celtic fans didn't want him. The club was in an absolute mess. And this is the beautiful thing about Ange Postecoglou going in at Celtic. It wasn't your typical Celtic manager. Traditionally, Celtic managers win a lot of trophies, right? He goes into a club that is in absolute turmoil. They've been pipped to the title 2 years in a row by Rangers. Rangers had knocked them out of the cup. Ross County had knocked them out of the other cup. Um, there was, rioting, calls for people's heads. The chief exec left. Another one came in, lasted 2 months, left for unknown reasons. Many players were, coming towards the end of their time at Celtic. Just a reshuffle needed to go. They thought they were going to get Eddie Howe in as manager. That didn't happen. So when Ange Postecoglou was announced, fans were really miffed. They're like, who is this guy? What has he done? To the point where TalkSport and Celtic fan TalkSport presenter, and Celtic fan Alan Brazil had to apologise on his show a year later after criticising the club for signing Postecoglou as manager, and obviously, he won the league in his first season. So it was a big turnaround. Celtic was in a hell of a mess when he came in. There was a lot going on. He had to turn it around, and he managed to do that. It was a terrible season the season before. So it's not like Brendan Rodgers, who came in as Celtic manager before him and just had to tweak a few things. He had to tweak a lot when he came. So Brendan Rodgers came in and was like, yeah, I've got a decent team, tweak here, tweak there, carry on winning. Postecoglou was coming into a very shaken Celtic, turned it all around, great man management, has a great eye for a signing, plays the attacking brand of football that got them excited. They still concede a lot of goals though, even at Celtic, in a poor league. So that is something to watch out for, a slight concern, but I still think we will score more goals than we concede. And at Celtic, he made his Champions League managerial debut for the qualifier, drew 1-1 with Midtjylland at home, then a 2-1 loss away, saw them not qualify. They won the Scottish League Cup, defeating Hibernian at Hampden Park in the final. And then the following February, they had a 3-0 win over Rangers, which put them top of the league for the first time that season. It ended Rangers' 13-game unbeaten run with manager at the time Van Bronckhorst. They didn't let their lead slip, and the rest is history there. And this season, you know how it's going. The league's wrapped up. They've already won a cup. They've got a cup final coming up, and bar a miracle from Inverness, you will see Celtic win a treble, which is massive. So what I would say to Spurs fans out there is he's on an upward trajectory. I would ignore the age because with the age comes experience. Also, when he came into Celtic, he didn't bring any of his own coaching staff, which makes it all the more incredible that he came into this unfamiliar surrounding, backed himself, and has done what he's done. He didn't bring staff with him. That is mad. Came in on his own and just turned this around for them. So, look, I'm not saying that he is a manager that would traditionally have excited me, but the more I look into him, the more I think it's right. Let's not be arrogant as Spurs fans. We've tried the big name managers and it didn't work. Pochettino was not a big name manager when we took him on. So what right do we have to be arrogant and go, look, well, Postecoglou is not good enough for us? You don't know that. He hasn't had the chance with a team in the Premier League. And if that's all the premise we're basing it on, I remember when Pochettino came in and we were all a bit like, is he good enough for Tottenham? We need to get our heads out of our backsides and just remember that just because we've had European football for God knows how many seasons doesn't mean a manager that is an unknown entity in the Premier League is not good enough for us. Because there are managers down the bottom end of the Premier League that you would not touch with a barge pole, but they technically have more experience than Ange Postecoglou. So let's not be arrogant. Let's remember that the little guy sometimes deserves a chance. And I will repeat, Martin Jol, Harry Redknapp, Maurizio Pochettino. Some of the best managers that we've had were not first choice. So look, let me know your thoughts below. What do you think about him possibly becoming Tottenham's next manager? Do you think it's right? Do you think it's wrong? What are your comments on his playing style? Do you think we can get good enough defenders in to get us through a season under the manic style of Postecoglou? Thank you for sticking around. I have been Kieran from Speaking Spurs. Don't forget to subscribe, like and comment. Until next time, come on you Spurs.